Hey everyone, welcome to our new series, Trouble County Talks.
Ooh.
So basically, what we're going to do in this series is get together as a band and chat shit. You can suggest subjects to us. We may suggest subjects, and we'll bring a guest on every episode. So today we're going to discuss our new album, obviously, and we've got Jacob. Is it Jacob or Jake?
Jacob is what I tend to go by, yeah.
Jacob. So we've got Jacob here today. So you've had a little preview of the album.
hmm
Um, what do you think?
Thankfully, I haven't waited until now to say I hate it or anything. Uh, which that'd be an interesting one. No, I I genuinely did really enjoy it actually. I I mean, I kind of first discovered you guys when you were opening for the last International
Oh yeah,
at
the
the
joiners.
Joiners in Southampton, yeah. Um, and all those years ago, I don't know when it was now. I mean, in turn, I found them from when they opened for the Cult in Portsmouth. And there were a couple of tracks, probably more than a couple of tracks, from your set list that were obviously within the album. So I know, I think 12 Gauge and John Baker definitely. I think he played there.
Mm.
Uh, and so that was really nice to hear for a start, the kind of like studio versions of those, because I remember especially John Baker hearing that live. I thought it was a brilliant song. And also, I have
Fantastic.
to admit, I'm one of those people that has a penchant for any song that feels the need to go for like 3 minutes. I'm like, I
Brilliant.
just quite like that.
Well, yeah, you probably quite like
Um,
us then, because we got a lot of songs that are more like 5, 6, 8 minutes.
Um, but yeah, I just think it's a really good album. I think it's just a great heavy rock album. I like that kind of Wild West vibe that goes into there. It doesn't lean into it so much that it becomes like, oh, this is like a Wild West album. Like it's trying to sort of be something sort of thematic. It just has like splashes in that in there, which is really nice. And I listened to it a couple of times, and I also kind of realized the more I listened to it, there are kind of like different sounds in there. So like the first time I heard it, obviously, I was like, wow, this is like a great like heavy rock album. But like when I listened to it again, I was like, some songs, stood out. That like a Wake, for example, which has a slightly more sort of dirgy kind of sludgy sound, which is quite nice. And
Yeah.
obviously John Baker, which again is sort of like this kind of heavy metal ballad thing. Um,
Mm.
so so yeah, so in short, I really liked it.
Oh,
Fantastic. No, that's great. And it's really nice that you've picked up on some of the sort of nuances that we've tried to add and ones that we've tried to steer clear of. You mentioned like the West sort of thing. It is something that we were a little bit typecast with when we first started, and we didn't really want to be, not associated with it, but we didn't want to be typecast as it anymore. So we did try and distance
Yeah.
ourselves a little bit
Pigeonhole. Yeah.
from that. Obviously we've got elements of it, and we do lean into those in throughout most of the album, really. But yeah, it's definitely an eclectic album. Right, have you got any questions for us?
Um, I mean, how long? I mean, one of the biggest things was presumably you've had a lot of these tracks for quite a while. I mean, again, I can't remember exactly when the last international was. I don't know if it was last year or 2022.
I think it was
But
last year.
it might have been, yeah.
Mm.
And obviously you had at least, again, I know at least 12 Gauge and John Baker. It could be that all the songs you played that night on this album. So obviously there's been quite you've been playing material for this album already, so what was the kind of, how long has it kind of taken you to kind of record this album and write it? Has it been a long
Yeah.
process?
It's it's been a bit of a journey to get this album finished. We actually started quite a few years ago to do a debut album.
Mm.
And we recorded a whole load of songs with a different studio. Um, and we had a lot of trouble getting a product that we wanted. We weren't really happy with where we were going with it, and it kind of fell flat. And then COVID came along and kind of sucked the wind out of our sails.
Yeah.
Um, and then through a podcast we did with a radio station in Canada, if I remember correctly, at the end of the
Yeah.
call,
That's
the
right. Yeah.
guy said, I know a record label in Italy. I think the guy like your kind of music. Do you mind if I send it over? And we're like, yeah, cool. No problem. Didn't really think anything more of it. And then got contacted kind of out of the blue sometime. It wasn't immediate. It was probably several months later. And the guy, Charlie, who runs this label, got in contact. He's like, what, from what I've heard, I'd love to do an album with you guys. And we had a couple of
Wow.
video calls and stuff with him, and it kind of went from there. So from trying to do an album and kind of failing to get a product we were happy with, we then got on board with the record company. We've re-recorded everything that we wanted to keep from the original stuff. And by the time this happened, obviously we did have some newer songs that we wanted to do. So we re-recorded everything as a solid body of work. I mean, Spence got the drums done in 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which was pretty epic. So we hired a room in a local studio. Jules took his computer down, and we took his and his brother's microphones and set it all up. I mean, it was an epic effort there. They were up till God knows when in the morning, getting it all ready to do the recording, recorded all the drums. And I have to say, we made a really good start to the album when we recorded the drums, because we were like, this sounds amazing. With just by spending the time getting the mics right, getting everything sound right, getting the drums tuned up, making sure that what we recorded sounded good. So we weren't having to put samples and the drums on the album are all real drums. There's no
Nice.
samples or anything. It's all real recorded drums. And then the rest of the music has been recorded. I did bass here in my home studio, and Jules did his guitar, and we did pretty much all of the vocals at Jules's. And then for 3 of the songs, we through a recommendation from the record label, we worked with a guy called Paul Reeve, who does vocal production for Muse and various other artists. Amazing. I mean, if we could have afforded him for the whole the whole lot, we would have done, but it cost quite a lot of money for one day. But what he did do was do a fantastic job of those 3 tracks for us, but give us some inspiration to go back and add and perhaps redo some of the vocals on tracks we had already. So we ended up with a product that we're genuinely really happy with it. And I mean, I hope you feel that it's not that you just quite like the songs, but actually that it sounds quite well recorded. And considering
Well, yeah.
all kind of posh bedroom recording, for a better way of wanting to put
Like the home
it, we're
studio,
really,
innit?
really
So,
genuinely happy with what's happened. A lot of that is due to where the final mixing was done. Again, this was facilitated by the record label, and it was done by a group of producers in Los Angeles, in America, who do professional work with big artists, but they sideline and do some stuff with the record label. We don't know their names; they just go under the Firmline Network, I think they're called.
Firmline Network Group.
We basically just anonymously send them the stuff, and they mixed it, sent it back. We had a listen, a couple of backwards and forwards, and we ended up with fantastic production on the album as well. Anyway, I'm conscious I'm gabbling on as usual, so I'm going to shut up and let someone else do some talking.
So yeah, to add a little bit into that regarding when we worked with Paul on the vocal production. So he works on a technique that method actors use. So it really creates a character for what you're singing, and it's created a great vibe for the album and really helped. It's transformed how I'd normally record vocals and how I'd normally get into character. So that's been a phenomenal experience working with someone like that, even for a short period. So yeah, hopefully that comes across.
I think that's fascinating that using like a technique that like method actors use. I think that's really interesting like that and how that completely changes your approach to it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
very much.
worked with Jules to kind of get into right. What's this song about? Where are you coming from with the song? What's the message? Right, this is the character that you need to be. You need to get into this character and then project as that person. So you're really kind of embedding yourself in the song rather than
Yeah.
singing over the top of it. You know, and it's
Even
Yeah,
had to do exercises beforehand, didn't he? To like
yeah,
warm up
yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, so I had to do a series of exercises, warm-ups, stretches, so that my body was no longer in the way or an issue in any way. So it was literally just all about the vocal, which was it was really enlightening to work with a producer because not many people get a chance to work with a producer of that caliber. And normally I'd be in my home studio, hitting record myself, jumping behind the microphone and wailing away. But having someone else do it for you, and so you can just concentrate on singing, and you can concentrate on even just individual words, like put more emphasis on this, make it sound more spitty, make it sound angrier, do this bit lighter. And it was very much a case of working on the lighter side. He said, your pushed vocals fine, you don't need to work on it, but your lighter vocal, you need to back off, and it's all what happens in your voice when you do back off. So a
Yeah.
lot of the album is very much more backed off than I'd normally sing, and I think it really has a good impact.
Mm.
yeah, I think it's given a lot more character to the
Mm.
vocals. It's not just
Definitely adds to it.
full on all the way through. It's given a lot more breathing space and more dynamics between verses and choruses and things as well.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
I mean, and I think definitely the production comes through. I mean, one of the things I noted in the actual written interview was I remember using the words like well polished, and it does feel that way. I was quite surprised that he said that it was kind of like almost like in like individual bedrooms and then whatever, because it doesn't have that kind of like uh jury rigged, like on a laptop in your bedroom kind of sound. It does sound um it sounds like well polished, but not like a pop record or like a super like glam thing.
Mm.
It still has that kind of like bite
mm.
to it, but like it
Edginess,
doesn't
yeah.
sound but it doesn't sound really amateur, which is always good, especially for a debut.
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been a
Amateur
it's
we were
been a
not
big
going for.
yeah,
yeah.
it's been a big step up sound wise for us. Like Mark said, with recording the drums right from the beginning, we set out to get a big recorded sound, getting the sound right at source. Spence did a heroic job of getting the drums done in the amount of time he did. Spence, have you got anything about the drums you want to add in?
It was like was it 12 songs in 3 days or something like that, wasn't it?
Great.
Yeah. I thought that we wouldn't get it done in time, but I was quite surprised when we actually started going. We sort of hit the ground running, which was pretty handy, really, 'cause didn't really want to run overtime. So yeah, it
Yeah,
was
we did. I mean, we did some pre-production work to make sure that you knew exactly what you were doing for everything and
yeah,
made you really know what
so-
you were doing in terms of fills and what to do and what not to do. So it wasn't,
yeah,
sometimes you go in the studio and you're still kind of playing around with what you're doing finally. I think when
yeah,
we went into all of us, when we went into recording this, with the exception maybe of some of the lead parts that were added afterwards, the core song, we all knew exactly what we were doing and we went in and recorded it. So none of us got a surprise when we listened to what somebody else was doing until Jill
yeah,
started adding a few lead bits that weren't necessarily on the original game plan. But they really 100% added another level to some of the bits and pieces in the songs, and whatever he plays always works, but it's never what you would necessarily think of yourself, if that makes sense. It's like he's got his own approach
Yeah.
to stuff, and there are some little key tricks and stuff he uses in what he does, but it's always interesting. It's always like,
Mm.
oh, and that's not what most people would do as a guitar solo on those songs, and I think it does help to separate us from other bands of a similar genre, that we're not doing the classic kind of solos and things that those bands are doing.
Yeah, I
Is
mean, I think I've very much tried to distance myself from standard and normal playing. Did you have any other questions?
I had one or two more. I mean, one of them I always like asking when an artist is releasing a new album, is there like a particular track on it that you think that will go down like the best live? Because like there's been a few times where I've asked an artist, like what their like favorite song is or whatever. But I think it's always really interesting when they say, "Oh, actually, I think this particular song, for whatever reason, will like the energy will be there when it's played on stage." So, is there like a song from Black in the Sky that you think that should hopefully on stage just, you know,
It's
There's a
probably
real,
like
Well,
probably
yeah,
different for all of us.
yeah,
I think we
yeah,
all have our own like
I'd
favorites
say
and
that's
stuff
right.
like that. Um, yeah, I mean John Baker. We've been playing that live for a little bit anyway, but that always seems to go down pretty well because it's quite epic. Um, and Got to Try. We haven't played that yet, but I think that's going to be one that goes down pretty well. It's pretty catchy. Hopefully, most of them will go down pretty
yeah,
well live.
yeah. I mean,
That's the plan, anyway.
to be fair, there's a reasonable number of tracks on this album that we have played live
yeah,
already. To Spence's point, I mean, Gotta Try, we put that out as the first single to promote the album because we think it's more commercial sounding out of the album. It's catchy, it's got a repetitive chorus, it's got kind of a fairly pop kind of format to it. So yeah, we're genuinely looking forward to playing that live, and hope it goes down as well as we think. But you don't really know. Like when we played John Baker the first, I mean, it's 8.5 minutes long, that song. Um, when you're doing
Probably
a
longer
half an
live.
hour set, that's quite a big chunk of the set, and you never really know. But it worked really well from the first one because it's got a kind of false ending in at the end of a middle eight section where it just stops just for long enough to people to think that the song has finished, and then it kicked back in again. And, that got a really good reaction. So
Yeah, because a
yeah,
lot of the time when we do that stop bit,
Mm.
people start clapping and then we kick in again because they
yeah.
obviously think that the song's finished. But that's quite a good one.
Yeah, I think it's worked well. It should be really interesting to see the songs that we haven't played live yet, how they're going to go down. For me personally, I really like Rapturous Me. It's a dark song. It's got an unusual time signature, but then it's got a slightly, dare I say, poppier chorus to it. Um, so it's going to be a really interesting one to play live, and hopefully, people will like it.
We haven't
Um,
actually played that one live yet, so
No,
I'm glad that you mentioned Rapturous Me, because that was one of the ones that stood out to me when I was listening to it. I have to admit, I do really like that one. Um, I mean, what's the kind of speaking of like playing stuff live, have you got any like shows booked in? Are you like looking to like anything booked in? Like what's it looking like? Can we catch Trouble County live?
so at the moment we've got nothing booked. We were concentrating on the album release.
Yeah, cool.
We are taking bookings for next year. Um, we're hoping to do a small tour at some point to tour the album, which would be really fun. But yeah, we're booking shows for next year. We will start announcing and revealing where they're going to be and who they're going to be with. Um, yeah, Spence, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's just I mean we've played some really good shows this year with some
Mm.
pretty notable artists.
Mm.
So from that point of view, it's been quite successful live. We just want to look to sort of continue that next
Yeah.
year and maybe play with some bands that we haven't played with before and maybe do a few more festivals. That's the goal
Mm.
and hopefully do a mini tour or something like that. But yeah, I mean we're looking to book shows, ASAP really sort of for next year. Yeah, and just see where it all goes, pretty much.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Anything else?
mean, sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was
Anything
just
else you
gonna.
bloody delay.
You go, Jules. You go.
No, go for it. I'm done.
It's the only difficult thing about zooming, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it's just and always the delay is such that people always speak the same. No, but it's yeah, it's exciting stuff. I mean, obviously, it's great that you're looking ahead. Obviously to getting out on tour. And obviously speaking from experience, I've only been to like one of your shows. And obviously I don't know how long the set was. Because I think there was two supports actually on that show.
Half an hour,
Uh,
half an hour that night.
yeah, but that was I really enjoyed that. I mean, that was one of the because me and my flatmate went, and I know that she liked all three bands playing that night, but she really liked, I think, Taipei Houston was the other support
yeah.
act, and it was always the kind of thing where like she really liked Taipei Houston, and I really liked Trouble Counting. I mean, we liked the other bands as well, but like yeah, I really liked that. Yeah, kind of blues tinged, kind of heavy rock kind of sound. Um, and yeah, I just think it's must be very
Mm.
exciting releasing an album. I mean, it's tough to really compare it to anything, I guess. I mean, obviously, I don't write music. I love writing, I love music. I've tried to do both. It hasn't it hasn't gone well. But I mean, I imagine. I mean, it might be a bit of a loaded question because the answer is probably going to be yes, but it must be pretty exciting. How does it feel, finally kind of knowing, your album's going to be released soon?
Yeah, it's exciting.
Well,
It's genuinely exciting. I think we're excited but apprehensive as well because obviously it's been a long time coming. It's out there with a label and it's being pushed out. Now, obviously, we want that to translate into hopefully pushing the band to the next level, sort of success-wise, to get us on better shows, to get us in festivals, to get us more noticed, I guess, outside of the kind of scene we're in at the moment. It's a good scene and there's some good bands and there's some good gigs, but I think we've got the potential to start broadening our horizons. And I think a good album and good reviews and good progress with that album could really be the platform for the next step for the band. So
yeah.
that's where I'm coming from anyway.
I mean, I think, so far we've had two reviews back, and both are just absolutely phenomenal to read, and it really it's heartwarming to read it because that's payment for the amount of effort, the amount of time, the amount of heartache, the amount of arguments.
Yeah.
It's not
The amount of
all
money we spent
sunshine and lollipop.
that we're
There's a
not
lot
going
of
to get back
shouting.
ever.
Yeah. It's yeah, it's been a long time. We've had fallouts, we've had highs, we've had lows. I think on a whole, it's been a really good experience, and seeing those reviews, those positive reviews, is just it's been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I can't wait to release the album, and I can't wait to hear everyone's feedback, good and bad. Bring it on. It's all good.
Hopefully
Spence?
more good than bad, though, I would say.
Yeah.
Not too much bad.
People it might not be people's cup of tea, but I don't think anybody can say it's a load of rubbish. I think
No,
I know.
it's been well recorded and produced, and the songs are I've had a lot of time and effort put into them. I think, there's other stuff that I've heard other bands have put out, and you do feel that maybe they've rushed a little bit, and we've probably spent way too long. So maybe
Definitely
there's
have
a
not
middle ground.
rushed.
Definitely for the next album, I don't want to spend whatever it's taken 5 years to get from, having a lot of the songs written to putting something out. But I think that really hinges on what happens with this. If this is successful and people really like it, there will be pressure on us to get new material flowing and put another album out. And we have been flat out. I mean, it's not just the music. There's artworks. There's all sorts of stuff in preparation you have to do. We all work full time. We're not full-time musicians. This is on top
yeah,
of our day jobs. And, when we say we're taking a break from gigging to do this, we've been busier since we've been doing
Yeah,
the album than we have when we were writing and we were rehearsing every week and all
yeah,
the rest of it is, and just keeping momentum on social media is a real challenge. Because you've got to try and generate content. You've got to keep it interesting. And, this album has been in the making even since we joined the record label for a long time, and
yeah,
people have been aware we're working on an album. We've mentioned it. We didn't really realize it would necessarily take as long as it did in total to get the finished product done. And what we've got on Friday is a digital release. We've still got physical release with CDs and things happening in the new year, and we've got a whole launch plan and PR and stuff to do for that, to continue promoting the album. Because if we're going to make any money, people need to buy
mm,
physical copies. Because we're not going to make money on Spotify. We might get 50p between us. Um,
yeah.
and we've got merchandise to sort out to go with that launch, so new t-shirts and other materials that
Uh,
we can use to,
Nobody makes money on
yeah,
Spotify.
promote the album and, you know, hopefully recoup some of the cost that's gone into doing it. We do it because we love it. We're not doing it because we need the money to finance our lives. So we're fortunate in that respect. But by the same token, you can't keep ploughing money in. It would be nice to generate enough revenue to fund the next album without us having to dig so deep in our own pockets to make the next one happen. So that's that would be a really nice step forward.
Is it going to be on physical release? And you've
yes.
already
So,
said yes.
Yeah,
Definitely, yeah.
one
as
hundred percent. And
as as as
yeah,
as Mark said, the we've ordered the physical copies. They are en route to us. We're designing new merchandise, so we're going to have a pre-sale launch with new merch bundles. We've got some quite surprising merch that I don't think people will be expecting, so that should be quite exciting for people. Really looking forward to doing it. It'll certainly be a new sort of direction, a new era, hopefully for us. But yeah, the new year, we don't have an exact date. Early
Yeah.
in the new year.
yeah,
Great. Well,
it should be first quarter. Well, the plan is it should be in the first quarter next year. I mean,
Yeah,
basically, we need to have the physical copies, and they're in production at the moment. So I think once we know they're produced and being shipped to us, we can then work a time plan out. And we've got a PR company that we're working with, to do a launch. They're helping us with the digital, so it's kind of last minute panic to do some stuff with the digital release this Friday, and then we'll be working on a launch plan into next year. And just keep watching on social media because we'll be plugging away,
yeah.
to keep everyone's interest up and hopefully put in some interesting content out there to keep people interested till the physical things there.
Hmm.
so look, we like to thank Jacob for taking the time to chat to us this evening. Over the moon that you are enjoying the album so far, and we really hope that you continue uncovering little gems that you enjoy. I don't know if you've listened on headphones yet, but there's a lot of ear candy,
Yeah.
which is really nice. The producers have done a great job. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so thank you for taking the time. It's been lovely to
Thank
chat.
you. And lovely chatting to
Um,
you.
Yeah.
and